5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Thursday, the 1st of August. Welcome to another episode of The Pad. I'm Ben, and I'm joined by my regular co-hosts, Matthew and Cash. How you doing, guys?
Hi, we're much cooler this week, so...
Yeah.
I mean, in all senses of the word.
Yeah, we're always cool, but last week was fucking hot. Yeah, it's back to normal now. It's gloomy, quite wet, generally unpleasant.
Good old British weather. Good old
yeah, you know. We definitely three bear it. It's either too hot, too cold, and it's rarely just right. You get about a week in spring where it's just nice. Yeah, so welcome to another episode of The Pad. We're going to go through our regular bits of what we've been playing, what we've been up to, cover a little bit of news, have a little bit of a chat, catch up. So I'll go to you, Cash, first. What have you been up to this week?
So to keep up to date with my Division 2 progress, hit level 30, done all the side missions, and got kind of like the second part of the game with these Black Tusk is what they call, like the military PMC people.
I would consider this the good part of the game.
It was really strange because I knew something was coming from our previous conversation. So did the final mission, and it was good. And then you get kind of a cutscene where everyone's really happy, and it's almost like 4th of July, they're all lighting fireworks and stuff. And then you just see this really darky, shadowy military types kind of running in. And it took me a while to figure out that they were the enemy. I was thinking, are they with us? Are we just retaking these places over? What's going on? And then when it kind of cuts to black and you're back at the White House and they're giving you an update, it's like, oh no, Black Tusk is here. They've taken over everything. I was like, okay. Yeah. I suppose it would have been nice to make it a little bit clearer.
The storytelling in that game is easily the weakest part. Like the first game had really good environmental storytelling and a really good premise, and that seems to have been largely thrown out with the sequel.
I remember, I played the beta. I'm sure it was with you and Kelly on the first one, and I remember some of the Echo stories were really cool and really interesting. You had to kind of follow the echoes and follow the story, and I really like that kind of lore. It reminded me of Destiny in a kind of a loose way where if you wanted to kind of find more about the lore, you could go and find it. If you did, you could kind of leave well alone. And it was really kind of interesting storytelling. And I didn't see any of that so far, and I'm assuming there just isn't in this version of the game. And yeah, it's just quite weak storytelling. But gameplay-wise, I'm having a lot of fun. I'm kind of essentially going back to the previous missions and the previous dungeons that I've done and doing them again. But it's quite nice. It's a new flavor. It's got new enemies and new tactics and new loot, which is all great. So yeah, I'm quite happy with it, quite steady away with it.
Yeah, I honestly think when the Division 2, when you hit level cap, the real game begins. Like the rest of it's almost like busy work because they felt like you had to level up. It becomes that kind of Diablo like when you hit level 30, the loot gets more interesting. There's different flavors, different sets, different bonuses. I haven't played it for a while, but I get the impression that last week, I mentioned on the last podcast that an update had hit where it opened up the build diversity a lot more. The community seems to be generally, from what I hear, I still subscribe to the Division subreddit and things like that, so I see bits and pieces kind of trickling on through. But the community seems a lot happier with the kind of just
delivered.
Well, just like the gear grind, it's now not just like you are looking for that one viable set. It's now a lot more diverse. You can do different builds. You can do different abilities. It just seems people are generally more happy because there's a lot more variety, and as a result, there's a lot more gear to chase. So you've probably hit it at a very good time, really.
Yeah, it's nothing but kind of praise in terms of gameplay from me. I did actually try the new content. It was temporarily locked, for people who had the year one pass, which is fine. I wasn't kind of gearing or kind of eager to get into it. It was really hard, actually. I remember failing quite a few times, but it was quite satisfying. And gear-wise, you're absolutely right. There's different builds, and I'm kind of looking into that more, being a lot more strategic rather than, I think before I was just looking at how much DPS can something do and how much of a crit chance and crit damage can it do with me. I'm kind of branching more into like the skill power and the blues, which is your armor and your health. And I know you can kind of save stashes and save equipment, so I'm going to maybe start doing that a little bit more as I get to higher levels. So it's opened up a whole new world, a very Diablo-esque world with loops and things. And I'm still enjoying it. So hopefully next week, I'll be kind of talking about it a bit more.
What abilities are you running at the moment?
So these are pretty much my abilities from about level 4, which is when I got them. I got the drone, the flying drone, and then the seeker.
Oh,
between them, they do everything I want to do, because I play mostly solo. So the drone just harasses people and forces them out of hiding, and then the seeker will just do mega damage. I've got a lot of abilities that do plus 20% weapon damage and 20% explosive damage and extended reduced cooldown time for skills. So I just kind of pop them and let them be my AI buddies, if you will.
I'm really surprised you're playing this as much if you're playing solo, because as much as I enjoyed the game, I think it's a nightmare solo. And I know one of the previous podcasts we did say that they've improved it since I probably played it in that regard, but it just never felt like it was a game designed for solo play.
Oh, I agree. Even the enemies, they're always kind of referring to you in the fourth person. Let's go get them, or they are flanking us. I suppose it's also quite PC as well. But it's I do get that impression. Yeah, I agree with you. It's not meant to be solo, but it's fun. I mean, when you say nightmare, are you saying that it was difficult, or it was just not fun and engaging?
Both, really. Like, enemies would just, because enemies are super aggressive in that game, and I think that's
Yeah.
fine when you're in a group situation, because it gives you, they're up in your face. You've got to work together to suppress them and push them back. But when you're by yourself, all it is them literally running through your bullets into you to melee you, one shot you down, and there's nobody to pick you up, and you instantly die and out, and then you go back. It's like, it's really punishing without teammates to revive you.
I agree, especially the DLC content. I was dying quite a few times, and I was questioning myself as to whether this was fun. But when I managed to get through it, I did kind of think, yeah, actually, I did enjoy that. I did quite like the challenge. And then when I'm with my friend, it's a lot of fun between us, because like one of us fucks up, we've got the other guy, he's going to come and save us. And enemies do tend to kind of split between them, and it's easy for him to kind of say, okay, I'll take the aggro from a machine gun or a turret, you go around and flank, and that's like, yeah, it's something I can absolutely do. Whereas in single player, it's much harder. That's why I kind of have the drone to take the flak off me, as you will. So yeah. I suppose it is maybe the changes that they've done that have improved the game, but it's I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I don't mind playing on my own. It's nice to play with people, either kind of through random invitations in the game or matchmaking, or even with my friend. But I'm quite happy to still play on my own and do like side missions and grind loot as well.
Fair enough.
In addition to that, I've been playing Sonic Mania. It was on the PS Plus, I think a couple of months ago, and I played it for a bit, and I put it down. And we've got PlayStation 4 at work, I may have mentioned before, and it's on there. And I think the last couple of times at lunch, I've just not been having much to do, and I think I'll just play Sonic Mania for a bit. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been really good, reminding me a lot of nostalgia. I've had people coming in, really old people, like I'm talking like 50s, 60s, coming in and saying, "Oh, this is Sonic. This is really good. I didn't know we had a Mega Drive," and it's me saying to them, "Oh no, it's a remake of the original, but they've kept kind of everything that was good about the original games, and they've updated it with new mechanics and new kind of graphics and new enemies and things." So people have been watching me and egging me on, and it's been a lot of fun just to kind of replay those kind of games. And it is just a big kind of nostalgia chip, and it is a big kind of fan service as well.
I think it's more than that, though. It's like a really good one, if you know what I mean. Like it's clearly that game was developed by I can't remember his name now.
Chris Whitehead, I think.
I think it is. Yeah,
he did a lot of the
passion project.
He did a lot of the ports of the original Sonic games to like PlayStation 3 and 4, I believe.
Didn't he make his name doing Sonic ROM hacks, things like that?
Maybe.
Yeah, and then Sega were like, "Hey, you're good, so we'll get you."
You're better than us, apparently. Why don't you go?
We don't know what the fuck we're doing. You know what you're doing. Like, why don't you go and do it? Yeah. Sonic Mania. I got it when it first came out on the Switch, because I tend to buy those smaller scale games on the Switch, and I think it's fucking great. Like, I always really loved Sonic. When you plugged Sonic 3 into Sonic & Knuckles, and you created that, like, the full package. Yeah. Like that was how that game was originally intended to be, before they had to split it in half because of development costs and cartridge restrictions. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And Sonic Mania basically feels like a sequel to that.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like an addition to that. There's everything you kind of remember and everything that was good, and then some, and then extra kind of little things and little enemies and new ways of playing. And I really like the boss fights, the Dr. Robotnik boss fight, or the Mean Bean Machine. Sorry, not Dr. Robotnik, Mean Bean Machine.
When I saw that, I thought that was amazing. Like, it's such a stroke of genius. It's such a deep cut.
It took me a minute to kind of figure out what's going on. I didn't realize I was watching a cutscene or something. I was like, oh no, I've actually played the game, and I remember playing it on the Mega Drive as well, and be quite good. So it was it was just all bonus points from me. It's soundtrack's great. The visuals are great.
The soundtrack's brilliant. Sonic Mania made me realize how much I enjoy Sonic music.
Yeah,
so many good tracks on that.
It's done right. It's just really weird that the fans kind of do game much better than the developers have done for best part of a decade, and maybe even longer.
Well, I mean, do you not think it's mainly because Sega have never really understood what to do with Sonic in the modern context, and now they've probably lost people, or they've just lost touch. And it feels like they are just not a top tier developer.
No, I agree, and I mean, Sonic Adventure was probably its first and probably the best kind of foray into 3D. It's never really done any.
Oh, in that game has aged horribly as well. If you go back and play it.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. But like Sonic Mania, there's no 3D. It's everything that was good with 2D.
Oh, yeah.
I can understand that they didn't want to kind of stay in the past and want to try new things. But come on, guys, 10, 15 years of it not working. Why are you still pressing it on? And
in today's world, where there's a lot more diversity in terms of what you can release, how you can release it, how much you can charge for it, there's nothing wrong with maintaining a 2D Mega Drive era inspired Sonic series.
Easily.
And charging 20, effectively, and I'm sure it would wear thin eventually, but I could definitely suffer a couple of years of like yearly Sonic level packs for 20 quid a year. Like, give me Sonic Mania, like, I don't know, give me every year for the next 5 years and just make it cool. So like, if that's what you want to do, just do level packs. I don't even need new games or anything like that. It's fine. I don't even need to play as Knuckles and Tails. It's nice that they're in there because they were in the old ones. Just give me fucking Sonic. I barely play as the other ones anyway. I'm a purist at heart. But yeah, so Sonic Mania is amazing because it's just all the original sprites, but they're all upgraded, and it just utilizes the modern technology. It animates the sprites in ways that just couldn't have been done on the old hardware. It introduces kind of extra frames of animation. It just adds all these amazing flourishes without ever compromising what those games were in the 90s. Yeah, there seems to be this weird debate these days, like, was Sonic ever very good? And I think Sonic Mania should settle that.
Yeah.
Just outright.
I think so. Yeah, I think.
Absolutely.
I think because Sonic Mania represented the best of Sonic,
yeah, absolutely.
I think for a while now, the brand has just been destroyed. I mean, even the sales for the brand have been going down. Sonic Forces, I think, didn't sell great.
No. And the movie's going to be the nail in the coffin, maybe.
Oh, God,
yeah. But yes, the Sonic Mania is fantastic. I think it's absolutely great. So it's cool. Yeah, I'm glad you're kind of getting on board with it.
Yeah, that's me. That's all I've been playing on this week.
Come on then, Matthew. How's
I think I was speaking to you before the show. I haven't been playing much this week.
You fucking liar.
No, with the weekend I had, I just haven't.
I'll be honest, I'm not surprised. If I was still slogging through Odyssey at this point, I wouldn't want to play it either.
I still had time for a bit of Odyssey. Why not? Continuing Odyssey. I think this week I'll put a lot more time into it. I can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. Jesus. It's a bit muffled, but I can see it. I did though, because I slept terrible last night. This morning, I ended up. You know me, Ben. I think I told you about this. I buy the occasional cheap game for stupid reasons. Yep. I ended up buying Korarimba on the Wii, also known as Mobile Mania.
I think you mentioned this on the last week's show that you picked it up,
Did I
or
ma- I
maybe
think I'd ordered
after
it.
you finished recording.
Yeah. Anyway, deprived of sleep, I decided to play about half an hour of it this morning.
Is this when you text me and said? Did you text me and say, "Can I get a Wii? Can I record Wii footage or something like that?"
Oh no, that was about the Xbox 360, and that was about
sorry,
another
that
gem,
was
wasn't
right.
it? Yeah,
That was right. Yes.
But
I'm just gonna start breaking out like all sorts of fucking old pieces of shit and recording.
I don't think Car Impa is necessarily as low as what I was on about, but yeah, I just sticked about with that for a bit, reminding myself of how annoying the Wii can be with its control scheme. Sometimes it's like a bit of a novelty. Sometimes it's just fucking insufferable. But honestly, I haven't done much gaming this week.
So what are you actually doing, Marble Madness? Is it just a pinball game, or is it like
no, it's you're controlling they just call it a ball, but it's marble. But you control your ball on this kind of board. You use the Wiimote as like the balance to move it around, and then you collect gems along the way. And it's got some cool things. You rotate the level around, like to jump. You'd flip the level around, like flipping the Wiimote upside down and stuff. But it's, you know what it is, like I was playing it and it kind of like reminded me of kind of like what would be a kind of novelty phone game now, or something.
right?
Just like
Snake.
it's not something that you would consider a full-blown release now, but like I say, I only picked it up for like £3, so that doesn't bother me one bit. But yeah, I've got loads of. I always say this every week. I've got loads of video games to get to, but I'll probably wait until I have time. Which at the moment I don't. I'm a busy man working like all the time with actual work in Assassin's Creed. It's a bad combination. So
yeah, I can imagine. I must admit, like this week especially, I felt like I'm feeling the pinch of real life more than I normally do. I think as an adult with a full-time job and all of the kind of adult responsibilities that I'm not great at keeping going. This week's been really bad, in particular, for just kind of keeping things going on the game front. Normally, that's the one that gets priority, really. Sorry, I feel like I'm probably just hijacking. Is that everything you played this week?
Oh no, that's everything I've been playing. Honestly, it's
been a dry week this week. That's what we're trying to say.
Well,
yeah.
I might make up for that. So I'll continue to play Shadowbringers religiously. So they put a new patch out in Shadowbringers this week. They continue to do them fairly regularly. I think it's been pretty much once every week so far with new little bits and pieces. But Savage Raids were the big one this week. So a few weeks ago they introduced the Eden Raid tier, which I think I mentioned in the previous podcast. It's just like a homage to both Final Fantasy VIII and also previous bosses in 14. They kind of brought back souped up versions of some of the classic bosses. And those bosses themselves are all based on classic Final Fantasy summons, which is quite cool. We got Leviathan, who's normally a new version of Leviathan, which is one of the water summons that normally comes to the game, and Titan, who's a big fucking like stone giant. They're both kind of classic in both Final Fantasy and 14 itself. So yeah, they came out. They're pretty interesting, and then the Savage versions are out, and they are the really hardcore progression standard of difficulty. And I have not done them because they just seem fucking nuts.
I was going to say they seem like for the really hardcore fans, maybe the kind of top end Twitch streamers or the really dedicated fans. And
I think it's the type of thing you do if you've got like a guild who all gets together and does them and has a few hours to dedicate to them and like, trial and error, strategizing, coming up with better ways to do things, min-maxing. It's that kind of, it's like heroic raids in Warcraft, if that's still a thing. It was when I played it. I've never really. I don't think I've ever done a Savage of anything. I've done so. Like I mentioned in another podcast, that hard modes are the kind of the raid content. That's like a normal raid content. It's eight man content. And then extreme are like one-off boss fights, which are more difficult. and there you get rewards from them, special rewards. And then Savage are the kind of hardcore progression raids, which are usually a series of 4 like subsequent fights all strung together. So I will dip into extremes to get the rewards. I have not yet done Savages just because they are another world apart. And every so often, what Square started doing in the last expansion pack, Stormblood, they started revisiting like really old raids and then bringing back a new difficulty tier called Ultimates, which are like for the top 1% of raiders.
Jesus, so that's like beyond Savage.
Oh, they are nuts. So like they did so the first raid in the game was the Binding Coils of Bahamut, and it's basically a series of like dragon themed bosses culminating with a fight against Bahamut, who again is a classic Final Fantasy summon. Now I've never done it, but and the limited stuff I've read about the ultimate Binding Coils of Bahamut is, rather than fight the bosses in subsequent fights, you fight them all simultaneously and have to deal with all the mechanics one over the top of each other, and it's just nuts. So yeah, I can't imagine I will ever see another Ultimate. And there's only 2 in existence, and that was for Bahamut and the Ultimate Weapon, who were both Realm Reborn bosses. So they've kind of brought back that kind of original game boss fights in a new guise, probably polishing up the mechanics to the current standard and making them super, super difficult. So yeah, there's plenty to do. So that game's still really good. I play Warrior, who's a big tank. I've started leveling up a Samurai for my DPS class.
Yeah, you mentioned last week. How goes it with the Way of the Sword?
Yeah, I'm starting to hit Stormblood content. I think I'm just about hit level 60, which is the beginning of Stormblood. So I'm starting to get to the really interesting modern content. So it's good. It's fine. It's just an MMO, so it's a bit of a time sink. I'll get there, and then I'll probably have to pick another job and level that, and maybe a 1 after that as well. So there's plenty to do. I'm still really enjoying that. It's good. It's great. And one of my friends, so me and my wife play it, but we've got a friend who plays it with us. He's finally hit the end game. He finished the story last night, and he's starting to make his way into the end game content. So we've got another friend in the mix now, which is really good. And I was talking to him in the office today because we work together as well. And he's very much seems to share the opinion that this is probably the best Final Fantasy there's been for a long time, regardless of it being online or not.
Wow, that's pretty bold.
So yeah, Shadowbringers continues to be very, very good. I'm really enjoying it, and it seems like it's got a lot of legs in it. What I imagine will happen is I'll probably be playing it on and off for the next 6 months. And then I'll start to wane more off it, maybe cancel my subscription for a few months at a time, jump back in when patches drop. And, that'll kind of continue until the next expansion hits. That's kind of the pattern that's formed over Stormblood for me, but we will see, because this is a much stronger expansion pack than Stormblood was. But yeah, still playing that. But the other big game I've been playing this week. So I mentioned last week that I've been eyeing up Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
So I've been considering it, and what I actually ended up doing is if you are a Nintendo Online subscriber, and I am, because Twitch was giving away a year's worth of subscription. There's a deal on offer that Nintendo will give you, and basically what this deal is, you can buy vouchers from them, and basically you can buy 2 vouchers for the price of, I think it's like £80. And the idea is that these vouchers allow you to pick a Nintendo published game and cash in a voucher for that. So effectively, pretty much every Nintendo published game is £50 on Switch. So you're effectively getting like a £10 discount. Okay. So I picked up 2 of those vouchers, and I had some gold coins. So when you buy stuff on the eShop, you get gold coins in return. Usually about 5, I think it's 10 or 5% worth of what you purchase. So if you buy a £50 game, I think you get like £2.50 worth of gold coins, and you can then cash them on your next purchase or bank them. So I think I managed to get this voucher for like £70. So I've got like a £15 discount per game. Over 2 games, and that you can keep these vouchers for a year, which is fine, because there's probably quite a lot coming out on the Switch in the next fucking 2 months, let alone a year. So I will probably spend them quite quickly. But yeah, I picked one up kind of with the full intention of buying Ultimate Alliance, because that's in the catalog, and I didn't. I actually ended up buying Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Oh.
Mainly because I was like, I will enjoy Marvel, but again, it's probably not worth £50. And if I buy it on eShop, I can't trade it in. I can't ever claim some of that
It's
value.
just for life whether you
I think you've made the right choice here, from what I've heard.
Yeah, so I have never played a mainstream Fire Emblem before. I have played Fire Emblem Warriors, which is the Dynasty Warriors style spin-off.
Yeah.
Which was fine. I've not played a Dynasty Warriors in years. It scratched an itch. It was fine. I didn't know any of the characters, but I kind of formed favorites over the course of that game. I hear one of the criticisms of that game as well is it put a lot of the more modern characters into it, who are far less popular than a lot of the older characters. And I know a few Fire Emblem characters from Smash Brothers. You've got like Marth and Ike. Corinth was one of the ones in Warriors, and she is now in Smash as well. One thing that's weird about Corinth, I don't know much about her in original context even, but in Fire Emblem Warriors, it's a girl, whereas I think in the Fire Emblem game she appears in, I think you choose her gender, because in Smash Brothers she can be a girl or a boy.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming
it just
she
seemed
is
like
your
a very
avatar.
kind of neutral character, just like dragon character or whatever.
Yeah, well, shit. I had no idea what she was or who she was, but when I started like flailing around, turning into a dragon, killing like 100 the time, I was like, yeah, this girl's good. So I liked her in Warriors. But yeah, Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's the game that is like, when I was saying I've struggled to play a lot of it, like play a lot of games this week, that's the one that's demonstrated, because I'm probably about 4 hours in and I'm still in tutorials. I feel like the game's starting to like open up. It's not laborious or anything. It's fine. There's just a lot of shit going on, and I probably appreciate the kind of gentle like introduction, but it's good. Like 4 hours in, I've had a few battles, but it's weird. It's like one part is this turn-based strategy game that has heavy RPG elements in it. It's kind of akin to something like Final Fantasy Tactics or Disgaea. I don't know if any of you guys played the Disgaea games. They're fucking nuts. But it's kind of like that, where you've got a grid, you've got characters, you move around the map, the different classes, they have different abilities, strengths, weaknesses, things like that. You move, the enemy moves, you move, the enemy moves, and all that. It's really deep. There's a lot of shit going on, like a ton of stuff. And I've not touched barely any of it, just because I'm just not that far in the story. But then the other part of the game is like this weird, like Persona style soap opera, where you are a professor at it's like fucking Game of Thrones meets Harry Potter, in that you are a professor in this like military academy. So you're pretty much in like Westeros Hogwarts, and you're a professor and you pick a house, one of the titular three houses, and they're all associated with a kingdom. You're on this continent, and there's 3 kingdoms in this continent, and each house is associated with a kingdom, and you pick one and you lead the students in that house. And over time, you can apparently recruit students from other houses if you entice them enough and spend enough time with them, or like, court them or whatever. It's like, it is like this weird soap opera.
Does it go anime as fuck? How does it handle that stuff?
It hasn't thus far. It seems fairly well grounded, which is quite nice. There's a weird thing where like the game starts where there's like this weird, like, I don't think it's too much of it. It's not really a spoiler, but she's kind of like a goddess character, like wakes up. You're like in this kind of abstract location, and she wakes up and you're there with her, and she's like, who are you? Who am I can't remember who I am. And she's kind of this weird voice that kind of talks to you, and I assume she's something in the wider story that we're like, and you're somebody special, and all the rest of it. But like, that's the most kind of like weird abstract anime part of it. The rest of it's they're just all kind of fairly normal characters. But yeah, it's good.
It does look. I've never actually played a Fire Emblem game. I think when I do get around to getting a Switch, that'll be one of the games I get.
I mean, like part of the reason I'm probably not that far into it is because I started the game and I was playing, and like when the game starts, you are a character called Byleth, but you can name him because everyone just calls you Professor. And you are a mercenary, and your father is, I think he's called Gerald or Geralt, and he's a famous mercenary. He used to be king of the not king. He used to be captain of these like holy knights, and the three heads of the schoolhouses like come to you on the road and say, "Help! We're being attacked by bandits." And you basically, it's a tutorial that teaches you to move units around the map and stuff. And your father leads you in a battle, and he's like mega powerful and all the rest of it. And you get to know the three heads of the houses, and like the kind of three kingdoms is one of the Red Kingdom, and I can't remember the name of the kingdoms. I remember the name of the houses, but not the kingdoms at this point. But you've got like a red house, like the red colored house with a black eagle as a sigil called the Black Eagles, and the country they're associated with is like this old empire that used to rule the whole continent. Its influence has waned over time. It's not in like the glory days of the empire like it used to be, and it's led by this young woman who is like heir to the throne of the empire. She's very strong-willed, very formal, very businesslike, but she's like, she knows what she's about. She's very kind of straightforward, and she's very to the point and effective. Though she backs up her kind of very kind of abrupt attitude with ability. You've got the Blue Kingdom, who are which their house is called the Blue Lions, and they're led by this kind of blonde, pretty boy. He's like a chivalrous knight. He embodies all that a knight should be. He's very kind, brave, heroic. He exudes authority. And I haven't seen any evidence of this so far, but everyone you talk to says like, well, he does that on the surface, but he's actually got a bit of a dark side to him. You've got to watch out for him. So I assume that's going to come out.
That's coming out, yeah. He's waiting for that.
Yeah, so we'll see. And then the final kingdom is the Yellow Kingdom. I remember what they're called. They're called something like the League of Alesta. And they're they're effectively like a coalition of counts and nobles who all like rule together in a council.
Oh, like the aristocrats.
Yeah, but they're the least noble of all like the kingdoms. They've got the most commoners in their ranks because their kingdom's more about self-worth and value and your abilities lifting you up rather than your birth. So they're a far bigger mix of nobles and commoners. And they're led by, God, I can't remember his name now. Because they're probably the one I've had least to do with. But there's this young guy. He's really charming, really friendly, easygoing, happy-go-lucky. He just seems like the chill version. That's like the chill faction. With the other two being like far more like fucking like Starks and Lannisters, very serious. Yeah, so I'm with the Blue Lions because originally I was like, well, red's my favorite color. I'm going to go with the red one. I quite like Edelgard. Edelgard's the young princess to the throne for the red faction. I was like, she seems cool. She's very businesslike, straight to the point. I like that. She's kind of stern but fair. And then I met the rest of them, and I was like, oh, fuck this. I hate these people. I do not like this faction at all. So I kind of skipped back and then joined the Blue Lions, and they're far more tolerable. So I'm with the Blue Lions. Done a few missions. Let's see, I'm about 4 or 5 hours in, just kind of going through this weird soap opera.
Yeah, it sounds very political, very kind of 7:30 Coronation Street kind of vibes.
It is. It's weird. It is like a soap opera. Like you're just doing stuff with people, building relationships with people. I've not played Persona, but apparently that's quite similar, where you spend your daytimes doing like teenager shit, and then at night you become like the psychic thieves. Is that the theme of Persona 5, I think, where you go into like the alternative dream worlds and things like that. It's kind of like this. During the week you wander the monastery, which is the home of the academy. You teach lessons, you tutor students, you instruct them on how to get better at things. You do random activities, you host like dinner parties to build relationships with people. It's very fucking like slice of life. It's very bizarre for such a heavy RPG, but yeah, you do all that, and then you go into these kind of really, really high stakes turn-based battles, because Fire Emblem has always been, traditionally, it has always been a game with permadeath. And when you start the game, it'll say, like, do you want to play casual mode where if somebody dies, you lose them for that battle, but they ultimately just retreat and they stay in the story and they stay in for the next battle. And I'm like a fucking idiot.
A bit like XCOM, I think.
Yeah. Like, well, yeah. The default, the traditional, the classic mode, as they call it, is when somebody dies on the battlefield, they are dead. And me being a fucking idiot thinking, I'm hardcore, I'll get permadeath, I'll pick permadeath, yeah, that'll be good. I'm playing with permadeath, and now I'm thinking, why the fuck did I do that? I'm not good enough at this game to risk characters. And like you say, Matty, just like XCOM, except the difference with XCOM is you kind of, I always found with XCOM, you imagine the characters and you build up personas around them over time.
Yeah, they don't really have like defined characteristics or personalities that much, do they?
No, not really, other than the kind of stories you build for them in your head, which is cool. I like that, it's fun. But these are like fully fleshed out characters with input into the story, relationships with each other. And it's like, if I lose one, I'm just gonna be like, oh fuck. Like, not only am I like shafting myself because I'm gonna have less effect, like less heroes to fight with. How am I affecting the story? What am I missing out on?
Yeah. I mean, I it's probably not the same kind of scale, but that's one of the reasons why I didn't really like playing XCOM anymore. I invested a lot of time and effort. Excuse me. A lot of time and effort into somebody like from Nigeria or India or Russia, and then I'm thinking, oh yeah, me and you are going to go all the way to the end, and then they just die, and then I'll retry a level, and for some reason they just keep dying. There's no way I can get them, and I'm like, I just can't
play this game. Point in time,
and they're pretty much, faceless. Okay, you can name them, you can give them little stats and stuff, but somehow I just developed a bond with these people who've been through kind of weird terrorist alien shit. Yeah, that's I don't play XCOM anymore.
Yeah, especially it was an Iron Man mode, which was saved after every turn. Like, so basically it was permanent, whatever. That was a mode in XCOM, wasn't it? Where basically you like the game by default was permadeath. You couldn't get rid of permadeath, but you could at least save scum and things like that. But Iron Man mode was literally like every time you make a decision, every time you click a button, the game saves, hard saves, and everything you did was like committed. I played a game like of XCOM like that for a little bit, and then I realized, oh my god, this is a mistake. I'm not good enough. So yeah, I may be regretting that. We'll see how it pans out. I think if I fuck myself over, I'll just have to start again on casual mode and maybe pick a different house. But we will see. What it is forcing me to do though is be far more considerate in battle and be a bit more tactful, tactful, and think about things. And it's good.
Making it all a bit more stressful as well.
Yeah, I've only done I've only had like 3 or 4 battles, and only one of those has been like a legitimate battle against enemies that can kill you. There's a few like practice battles that where it's like, oh well, if you die here, remember it's just a practice battle, so don't worry, which is good because I did lose a few people. And like sometimes an AI in games is a bit stupid. The AI in this game seems to know what it's about, at least to a point where it can fuck you over. There was one point where one of my best guys was on the front line, and he was quite low on health. So the enemy sent like 3 units against him, one after the other, rather than spreading their attacks out amongst all my people, because the AI was basically like, he's been killing shit tons of our men. He's weak. Yeah. Let's just fucking dogpile him and get rid of him. So I'm worried about that now. But yeah, I've never played a Fire Emblem other than Warriors. Do like the odd turn-based tactical strategy game, strategy RPG. As I say, kind of Disgaea, quite like Disgaea 5, which I also played on the Switch a few years ago. But yeah, I think this is yet another fucking huge game that I've got myself into, which I've really stopped doing.
It's going to be a big time sink, I'd imagine.
Well, from all the reviews and everything that's been published, it says it takes somewhere between 50 to 80 hours to complete, and the game, because of the divergent storylines, the game encourages you heavily to replay with a different house. Right. I don't know if I'll get that far, if I'm honest. So
at least it's portable.
Well, yeah, and it's pretty good for the most part. The RPG bits are a little bit frustrating to play in handheld mode because the text is very small, but the battles are fine. So yeah, it's interesting. There's something about it that really grabs me. every time I play it, there's like a new system revealed. The kind of last time I played it, the class system is kind of opened up a little bit more. I was like, oh shit, this is interesting. All of a sudden I can like min-max and push all the people into these different classes and we'll plan for the long term. Oh, this is getting good. So yeah, we'll see how all this pans out, but it's good. It is really, really good. And I still have another voucher to spend. So I still could get Marvel Ultimate Alliance. But I think I mentioned before, Link's Awakening's out in September. I might save it for that because that is on the catalogue of games that will be able to use it. So is Pokemon, actually. And Pokemon is the game that I like to buy and then never finish. I don't think I've finished. Oh, no, I didn't finish Let's Go Eevee, but I did finish Sun, I think.
Really?
Sun was weird, man. Like, it ended up kind of like this Lovecraftian fucking storyline where you were summoning, like, beings from another dimension that weren't Pokemon, that were just monsters. And
oh, shit.
Yeah, and like the end, spoiler alert, but fuck it, it's been out like 3 or 4 years now, and there's been an ultimate version of it come out since anyway, so who cares? The last boss is the crazy scientist lady who's like trying to pull these beings from another dimension, merged with like this tentacle monster thing from the other dimension.
Yeah,
it's like for a fucking for a Pokemon game, it's some Final Fantasy level shit. It's bizarre. So yeah, I'm eyeing up Link's Awakening and maybe Pokemon Sword or Shield, but we will see. I mean, talking about those vouchers, they're pretty good value if you're in the market to buy like full price games. The catalog as it stands,
especially
if
if you go on digital as well, because obviously I think the games are usually £60, aren't they?
They're about 50. Breath of the Wild is still 60, but and there's some of them on the catalog which are 40, which I don't know why you'd buy one of these with a voucher, because it's not worth it. You're not getting a discount.
Yeah.
But like the catalog as it kind of stands is Breath of the Wild, 1-2 Switch, which who the fuck would buy that? That's one of the £40 ones. Mario Kart, ARMS, Splatoon, Pokken Tournament DX, Fire Emblem Warriors, Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Dragon Quest Builders, Bayonetta 2, Kirby All-Star, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which is fucking mint, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, Sushi Striker, Mario Tennis Aces, Octopath Traveler, something called Go Vacation, which again is a £40 game, don't buy it, with the voucher at least. Super Mario Party, The World Ends With You Final Remix, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, Smash Brothers Ultimate, something called Fitness Boxing, again £40, don't buy it. New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, Yoshi's Crafted World, Super Mario Maker 2, Dragon Quest Builders 2, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Astral Chain, Daemon X Machina, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. So Daemon X Machina is the it's out.
I think it's a Deus Ex then. I was like, I didn't realize it was on.
No, Daemon. It was a Daemon X. So it's spelled like DAEMON X Machina. So it's a bit like Deus Ex Machina. I think it's like this mech shooting game. Nobody seems to know anything about it, but there seems to be a lot of buzz about it. It's odd. So like Astral Chain and Daemon X Machina aren't out yet, but they are available to pre-purchase. Games that aren't out yet and aren't available to pre-purchase but will be available to buy straight away using the voucher are Zelda Link's Awakening, Dragon Quest 11, Luigi's Mansion 3, and Pokemon Sword and Shield. So I think they've been pretty good with this.
It is a good deal. There's a lot of good games in that list.
You know, if you're buying full price, you're in the market to buy a couple of games this year or in the next year. It seems pretty good. And like, you know, Nintendo first-party Nintendo games are generally pretty good. And if you are looking to buy them, I think they're generally worth the price of admission. I even though I don't always finish a Pokemon game, there is plenty of content in there to warrant a full price purchase.
Yeah, and they tend not to really drop in price, so they even physically they don't.
Well, there is that as well, which makes me think that it's not that bad a deal, because you could wait. Like, I think the cheapest I've seen Breath of the Wild is probably about £35, and that was a physical copy, and that was maybe once since it launched, which is what, 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
2.5, something like that. I don't know.
So it's not bad. But yeah, Fire Emblem Three Houses, it's good. I like it. I will be playing it for a long time, I imagine. I do intend to do a video about it as well. Just again, I haven't played it enough to really get into the meat of it, so I will probably wait till I have. In terms of videos and stuff, I've streamed quite a lot of Final Fantasy this week. A lot of dungeons, a lot of raids, just kind of going around doing bits and pieces. Just showing off a little bit of that, trying to level my samurai. So I've done quite a bit of streaming this week just to get some content out there. Watch my subpar Final Fantasy playing.
That's a little plug.
So yeah, I'm trying to think. I suppose aside from video games, kind of this year, I've started to look at board games and card games a lot more because they're coming back in a big way. Like there's a bit of a renaissance going on in that field. So kind of early in the year, I picked up Pandemic, which is like it's kind of like the modern classic of cooperative board games, and it's basically where you and a team of up to 4, I'm going to say, have to band together, take on a role. There's different classes with different abilities that you can all use to help each other, and basically you've got to kind of go around the world curing and creating vaccines for diseases before they break out too severely and become uncontrollable. And it's really good. I got another game called Blood Rage, which is basically like where your Viking clans looking.
That sounds like it should be a video game.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's so themed heavily. It's so Viking. It's unreal. It's like one of those games you either love it or hate it. But it's like the theme of it is it's all the different realms on the board. So you've got like all those Norse realms that you saw in things like God of War and places like that. And they're all around the World Tree, Yggdrasil, and it's kind of like you put your like your clan around the board, and it's all competing for space on the board and stuff. And the idea is you just become the most Viking motherfucker on the board, before Ragnarok destroys the world, and you gain points by like doing Viking shit, like killing other people, fighting, even like. There's different rounds, and in between rounds, different areas will be destroyed by Ragnarok. And if you like put people in an area to be destroyed by Ragnarok, it's like, yeah, that's the most Viking thing ever. You died during Ragnarok. That's cool. So you get points for that. It's very odd, but it's quite good. But it's very, very heavily themed and might not be everyone's cup of tea. So I got those early in the year, and I've kind of had a bit of a surge the last week. Picked up a few more. We've got some friends coming around next week to play board games. And they've got a teenage daughter who's coming with them, so like they're kind of family friends. So we started having a look at games which were 5 players, because a lot of the ones we have are only 4.
Yeah.
And I picked up a game called Sushi Go Party, and it's me and Kelly were playing it last night, and it's fucking awesome. It's this card game where it's all like cute chibi sushi themed cards.
Oh yeah. So they're like kind of like cutie little baby anime cards.
Yeah, and like you've got a board, and you got and what you do is you kind of create like a menu of sushi on the board. Like there's different tiles, and like so there's like a special slot, and there's like 3 different types of special card. There's like chopsticks, a spoon, or something like that, and then there's like a roll slot where there's like 3 different types of rolls, all that have different scoring mechanisms. And you create a deck, and everyone gets 10 cards out that deck, and basically you look at what your hand of cards, and you pick the one you want, and you put it face down, and pass your hand to the next person, and then you all flip your cards, and it's basically like you're trying to score the highest. Okay. And as you pass your cards around, obviously the hands get smaller and smaller as everyone takes out a card each turn. And you start having to try and memorize what's in each hand, so you can start strategizing long term. So like there's things where a little maki roll, which is like a little sushi roll wrapped in seaweed, it's worth it's only worth any points if you have the most maki at the end of the round. So basically it becomes this thing of like, right, I need to start stacking shit tons of this maki to make sure that I'm going to be the one who gets the points at the end, because you might say you end up stacking like 6 rolls of maki, someone else steals in with 7. You've just wasted 6 cards to get no points for whatsoever. There's a sashimi card, which is just like cuts of fucking meat, basically. Like if you get 3 of those, they're worth £10. It's £10, 10 points. But you've got to get 3. So do you wait until you know there's 3 in circulation before you start stacking them? But if you do that, you're going to give other people a chance to grab them. And if you start stacking sashimi, people can see that and start intercepting them to stop you getting the 10 points. And there's just shit tons of strategy to it. It's fucking really good. I'm really looking forward to play it because me and my wife played it. Me and Kelly played it together. And it's when you've got 2 people, you are really kind of head to head because you're just passing the same hand back and forward to each other. And I imagine it'll start getting just far more complicated when you start piling in extra people. And you can play with up to 8 people as well. So I imagine it's really good. And there's I think in the manual, there's like 10 different configurations on the board. And the game also says, look, this is what we suggest, but just make your own up if you want. It's fine. And there's like ones that are more complicated to play than others with more complex rules, more advanced sushi in the pile, stuff like that. So yeah, it's really good. What else did we pick up? And we also picked up, I haven't played this one, but a game called Mysterium, where one person is a ghost and everybody else are psychic investigators, and the ghost cannot speak to the psychic investigators, and you have to communicate to the psychic investigators through abstract cards. And like you've got it's like Cluedo without being able to speak.
Oh, what the hell?
So like all the psychic investigators have got to work out who's the murderer, what like and things like that. But
yeah, I mean, there's old games like that, like Murder, where you kind of wink and that person's dead, and somebody has to. It's a detective. You have to find out who the murderer is and things like that before everybody dies. And it sounds like a play off that.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. It's cool. So we're going to try that out next weekend. But yeah, branching out into non-video games a little bit.
Yeah, they are
still gaming. Still gaming. Still counts.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they are coming back as well. You are right, though. I've heard a lot of I don't know, buzz the word around board games. I guess it is a form of gaming.
Yeah, it's a form of game that takes a lot of setting up and putting away.
Yeah.
There's like, and some of these games are like fucking stupid. So, because I've been like looking into board games, what's the good ones to buy? What's like highly rated these days? Because I'm trying to be cool and hip with it. I don't want to fucking buy Monopoly. It's bullshit.
What?
I want to see what's cool, what's new, what's like what's the hot thing on the block, and consistently the most highly rated and popular game of like the last few years seems to be something called Gloomhaven, and it is £120 and comes in like a fucking casket full of just cardboard cutouts, maps, boards. It's pretty much a fucking fully fledged like Dungeons and Dragons campaign on a board game, and it's nuts. It's effectively like Diablo the board game with nothing cut out, and it's meant to be fucking amazing. But it's £120, and I can't fathom playing it. I keep sitting there looking at it, going, might be pretty good. You know, I'm sure we could get £120 worth of fun out of it. I think it'll be fun. And then just thinking, oh God, who's going to play this with me consistently? Because it comes with like a manual, which is effectively like a fucking novel of like scenarios you've got to play through. It's like a story that unfolds as you go through it, and it just looks nuts. So that's my white whale, the kind of thing that I want, but I just don't think I can justify it at all. So yeah, gaming, board games, it's coming back in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just thought I'd mention it. I've gone on a bit of a surge this week because we're having friends come next week, so we've been buying extra ones. So it just was fresh in my mind. I thought it was worth mentioning. Okay, then. So I think that covers everything we've been playing. So on to news, and again, it's summer, it's light news week. So there's maybe a few stories that are just little fun throwaway things, and some other things which are maybe a little bit more meaty, a little bit more worthwhile discussion. I think the first thing that I just was going to bring up though is that Destiny 2 is something that's kind of been in the news quite a lot lately. Bungie have split from Activision, And a lot of the stuff that's kind of come out in the wake of that is it feels like it's a lot of animosity from Bungie towards Activision and how Activision kind of hobbled them for a long time. And now that they're out from under Activision, they feel that they can branch out and do what they want to do with that game now. So we talked a little bit about it when we talked about Stadia, in that it's going free to play in September with Destiny Last Light, or New Light, I think it's called. Yeah, Destiny 2 New Light. So you can basically play like all the baseline stuff for free and play with friends and all that. So that sounds good. And we had Forsaken, the first big expansion pack, back in September, nearly a year ago, which was really, really good. And now we're getting Shadowkeep, which is a smaller scale expansion pack, but that's launching. Well, that was launching in September. It's actually just been announced this afternoon that it's getting pushed back into October, October 1st to be precise. So that's 2 weeks delayed. I don't think any reason has been given other than kind of a bit of a vague statement around, we don't have to adhere to release schedules when we're not ready anymore. We can do what we want. We're self-publishing. And it's not going to be ready, so we're not pushing it out. And that seems fair enough. But yeah, I think Shadowkeep was one of the ones that I was like, when I mentioned there was going to be like 20 games. I think we were talking. I think that was maybe before we started recording the podcast.
Yeah.
There's a shit ton of games coming out in September. This was one of them that I really wanted to pick up. I really liked Forsaken. Shadowkeep looks like it's going to be Hive based, and Hive. If Hive are there, I'm there. I fucking love the Hive.
Yeah, it's definitely got the that last in it from the first expansion on Destiny 1, who kind of takes you to the moon and talks about more about the lore stuff. So I thought the Hive were done because you killed kind of, was it Crow? I don't remember his name.
Oryx, the king.
Oryx,
the king.
yeah. I thought he was done for. I thought that was the end of the Hive.
Oh, I'm going to get into a fucking Destiny lore hole here.
Give me the nutshell, because I mean I didn't really play Destiny 2.
So Oryx is one of 3 Hive gods. Oryx is the Taken King, but he has 2 sisters. Savathun, who is Savathun is the power behind the Hive in Destiny 2, though she is not yet in Destiny 2. I would not be surprised if she is in Shadowkeep in some form. There's been all the Hive. There's a lot of talk in Destiny 2 about like, how are the Hive still here? What are they doing now that Oryx is dead? And then there's a lot of like, something beyond our solar system is starting to like move towards us, and the Hive are prepping for its arrival. One of the dungeons is called the Song of Savathun, where they're trying to summon something big.
Maybe like an avatar of her or something like a.
Yeah, and you disrupt the ritual. But Savathun is like the queen of the witches. I think, or towards that, she's like the clever one.
The fucking bitch. Yeah, I remember witches.
So yeah, like Oryx was like the strong one. Savathun, Oryx was like the one who carried like the authority and the mantle of leadership. Savathun's the clever one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another sister whose name escapes me. She's like the one that's least mentioned, but she's the god of war. And I think if I've got my cards, I'm going back like fucking Taken King expansion pack, like so 3 or 4 years ago now. The last time the other sister was mentioned is when the Vex come into the lore.
Yeah,
she's fascinated by them and basically like steals a load of Vex samples and fucks off into another dimension to study them. So that kind of opens the door for a Hive Vex hybrid faction later down the line. So there's all sorts of fucking cool stuff. Like Destiny's got the best fucking lore, but it's just never really explored in game all that much. It's amazing, like really deep fantasy, fucking science fantasy stuff. It's just like fascinating to read. But yeah, so Shadowkeep looks really good. Like you say, Cash, it's Eris Morn is the woman you're thinking of from the moon.
That's the one.
And her backstory was always her and a fire team went to the moon to kill Crota, who is Oryx's son. All of them got killed except her. And now something else is happening on the moon now, and she's basically like recruiting you to go back there and sort it out. Some of the screenshots we've seen show like human, like shadowy figures floating around different bosses in the trailer. And there's a lot of speculation that they're the corrupted spirits of Earth.
Yeah.
The guy who led her fire team was a guy called Torland as well, and he's in Forsaken, kind of. There's like a weird meta like quest in one of the in the end game area where every week you could do something called the Ascendant Challenge, which like basically there were like little mini puzzles or combat challenges where you would go to the Taken dimension and do something really hard. And when you did quite a lot of them, this little black orb would come and speak to you, and it was like Tolan's soul. And it was kind of all speculated that he hadn't got killed. He just he'd gone over to the Taken dimension, and now was trying to find a way back, and it kind of found you. And again, lots of fucking speculation and quite interesting stuff from a lore point of view, but didn't really go anywhere in game.
Wait a little bit longer now if it's been delayed.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, because I still think Destiny 2 it's got some of the best shooting I've played in fucking a long time. It's so tight.
I'm really interested for what happens with the inevitable Destiny 3, with them being away from Activision.
There's a lot of rumors speculating. There was a leak about 6 months ago now to say that Destiny 3 is going to be a thing. So the leak, I suppose, the leak was that they were pushing more and more into the RPG elements. There was going to be deeper skill trees. They were moving away from, again, from the lore standpoint, everything's like you are a bastion of the light and you are a warrior of the light, and all your powers come from the light. The rumor was that you would in fact be getting dark powers, because your light powers would be stripped from you at the beginning of the game. Again, to reset the clock and all that. But it would basically, you'd be kind of going in a different direction, completely different talent trees, much deeper talent trees. There would be a new major faction, which is teased at the end of Destiny 2, which is effectively the Darkness proper.
So it's the actual Darkness. Yeah, I was going to say it's 2 games in. We haven't seen really what the Darkness is. So.
Yeah, and apparently the idea behind these things is they can drink light, hence why your light gets stripped from you, or at least negated to the point where you can't use it, because as soon as they're in the vicinity, they basically rip it from you. There's a lot of rumors to suggest that they are effectively the Darkness equivalent of Guardians, and so are your match.
Okay.
I mean, this is all speculation from a story point of view, but basically, I think Destiny 3 is coming. I think it will come out on next-gen consoles. I think it will just be called Destiny, and I think it will be Bungie's attempt to fully turn Destiny into a long-term platform for the duration of the next generation.
Yeah. Which is like what they always wanted, and I think from the way they broke off with Activision, they didn't really get what they wanted, and that's why they wanted to go in their own direction.
Exactly. I feel like Destiny will become like Warframe is today, this behemoth of a sci-fi shooting game with things just bolted onto it over time, and it just gets deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. Yeah, and as far as I can tell, despite us having come across some major fucking things in the story, they can still pull all sorts of shit out their arse, and there's all sorts of loose ends tied up, and all sorts of crazy shit they can do. There's absolutely tons of stuff. So it's good, but yeah, it keeps delayed 2 weeks. That's the crux of it. I will still be picking it up. It kind of, in terms of the September games, it was starting to, for me personally, it was starting to look like a toss-up between Destiny and Borderlands, and I think Destiny was quite handily winning out that toss-up.
Yeah, Borderlands just looks very, very, very Borderlands. Like, I've seen it, like
that's
it
both
just looks
a big compliment and it's a backhanded compliment if I've ever heard one.
It just looks like if you would have shown me it, like I would think, oh, is that Borderlands 2? I just wouldn't know. Like, it just looks exactly the same. So I don't have much hope for that game. Don't trust Gearbox.
Well,
I don't think it's Gearbox I don't trust. It's Mr. Pitcher that I don't trust.
He is Gearbox. Yeah. Don't you forget it.
Yeah.
Don't you forget it, Cash, where I'll show you some magic tricks.
Yeah, I'm going to wait for Borderlands 3 and see what the impressions are. I don't think I'm ready to put money down to it just yet.
I think the impressions, I mean, I was watching Giant Bomb's preview of it the other day, and it was basically 2 people kind of sitting there going, yep, it's more Borderlands.
Yep, which is exactly what I thought. When I saw the trailer, that's exactly what I thought.
Which, when you think, like, the last original Borderlands game was what? Borderlands,
the
prequel.
A
The pre-sequel,
yeah.
sorry, what's called. Yeah, like, and that was last generation, so you'd think by now, bearing in mind it's the end of the next generation, they would have had a bit more of a...
Well, I honestly expected it to be a Destiny-like a game as a service or persistently online thing.
They tried to do that with I can't remember its name now. That's
Battleborn.
Battleborn.
Yes, which just completely bombed and fell apart.
Well, I don't mean just like that kind of online thing. What I expected, because like Borderlands is very old school in that you create a game and you invite friends to it, or you open it up to randoms. They drop in, and everyone is at your point in the story. Whereas Destiny is more like you go to a planet and you have your objectives, but there's like other people wandering around doing their own shit as well.
Yeah, Borderlands is very Diablo, isn't it? Kind of.
Yes, that old school approach. It's not that kind of more modern, seamless online experience. And I expected Borderlands 3 to be more of that online seamless aspect, and it just does not seem to be doing that. And that's not a bad thing. One of the things I've been moaned on this podcast is there's too many games as a service, and I don't have enough time to play them all or invest in them. So I don't need another one. But for it to be so much like just Borderlands 2.5, it's like Borderlands in 4K, and you can slide like in Apex now. That's what it feels like. But we haven't played it. We don't know. It might be absolutely fucking amazing. I'm reserving judgment. I think Borderlands 2 is a fine game, but I think the weakest part of it is the shooting. I don't think the shooting is great in that game. I think
that's another thing as well. Yeah, since the last Borderlands, like, there's been a lot of games that do the sort of loot shooting, first person shooting and whatnot, that do it a lot better. Like Destiny
completely.
And whatnot. But I just think if it is, like you say, it's Borderlands 2.5, I say it's Borderlands 2.2. It just if it's that, that's similar,
Like you said, we've had the pre-sequel, and that was made by the B team. It was made by the Australian studio, another Take-Two studio, I think, from Australia, and it was very Australian themed, and it was fine. But I dropped off that pretty quickly because it was just more Borderlands. The best thing we've had out of that series since Borderlands 2. It's something that never feels like it's really gone away, because Borderlands 2 has been re-released quite a lot of times. It rivals Skyrim for that title of most ported. Yeah. But we had Tales from the Borderlands, which was probably the best thing we've had from them.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, one thing that is quite interesting about 3 is that it seems to embrace Tales from the Borderlands and almost be a sequel to that. There's characters in that game that are in the trailers for Borderlands 3, which is quite interesting. But I think what Tales of the Borderlands did was it distilled what was good about Borderlands, and that is the world and the characters. Not the loot game, I don't think is the best. I think there's a lot of variety, which is fun, but I think the huge amount of variety means that a lot of weapons are just shit and not good to use.
A lot of junk.
And I don't think the shooting's particularly good. It's very old school in that you stand there, strafe, and shoot. It's very Doom without Doom's aggressive flair.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't mean to be down on Borderlands. I enjoy it fine, but it's definitely, if it comes between a choice between that and Destiny 2 Shadowkeep, I'll probably be picking Shadowkeep. But we will see. So that was meant to be my quick news story. Jesus. So I'll just go over some quick news. So we've had a few news stories come out this week about old games being revived in interesting ways. The first one is that the original Diablo is now playable in your browser. Somebody has managed to basically recreate the game, and you can play it basically getting rendered natively in your browser. Let's have a look. What can't remember the guy's name. So a programmer called Galaxy Hacks, spelled with a few Z's and X's and things like that.
I'd be upset if it was a C and a K.
So basically, they've compiled the Diablo to be playable inside your browser. You can go to a particular URL, which is diablo.rivsoft.net, and you can play it there. You can basically get a shareware version of the game, which we've been around for years. Everyone can play for free. But if you have the game on your actual PC, what you can do is you can drag a particular file. It's a diab.mpq file. If you drag that file from your Windows Explorer or whatever into the browser window, you can play the full game rendered in your browser.
That's cool.
Just
That's
weird.
incredible.
And I think Diablo 1 is not particularly well remembered. I think Diablo 2 is when the series really came into its own. I think Diablo 1's a very different kind of game. It's more of a horror adventure than an action RPG. But still, I just thought that was cool. I just thought it was a nice little thing. Because we've spent so long talking about Borderlands and Destiny, I'll quickly move on. So there's another game that kind of been resurrected. Elder Scrolls Daggerfall has been recreated in Unity. Oh
my god!
Yeah, so it's basically something that's been kind of going on for a lot of years. It's been playable in DOS for a long time. I think it's been available for free since 2009 by Bethesda themselves. And it's like Daggerfall seems to be remembered now as the one, like the massive one. Just reading the article here, it says it literally takes you 60 hours to walk across the map.
It's madness, isn't it? When you think of this game, I think it's still the biggest, aside from like a Minecraft world, still the biggest game like you can get.
It's fucking stupid, man. I mean, it's the thing is, it kind of gets away with it because it's all procedurally generated and all that. It's not like Skyrim, which is a crafted world. It's there's a lot of cut and paste and scaling on the fly, but it's impressive nonetheless. But there's a guy called Gavin Clayton, otherwise known as Interkarma on the internet. He's basically been rebuilding Daggerfall in Unity for a long time. In 2015, he released Daggerfall tools for Unity. And it's kind of progressed from there, and it's been playable for a while in various forms. But recently, it was just released. The alpha version of the game was released, which basically means it's playable from start to finish, but with bugs. And they are just continuing to patch and update and polish as they go. But yeah, you can sit and play Daggerfall in Unity, and it comes with all sorts of modern bells and whistles as a result. So you can now move with WASD instead of using the mouse to move, which has freed up the mouse to be able to look like a modern first-person game. In the original, you used to swing your mouse to swing the sword. Now you can just click, so it's a little bit more precise, a little bit better. You can play in widescreen and things like that. So it's
updated, which is great. There's always seems to be little Elder Scrolls projects. Like I know there's one to create Oblivion in the Skyrim engine.
The mod community and whatnot for Elder Scrolls games is mental.
Yeah. So it doesn't surprise me, but it's still a really nice thing to hear that there's such a dedicated team of fans, and I mean they're all doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. And I think Bethesda is quite good. They're quite open. They don't really kind of crack the whip that, let's say, Nintendo do.
I think fans that mods. I think they embrace mods for the most part. I think maybe in recent years they've maybe tried to usurp the modding community and try and
monetize
it. But otherwise, they are open to mods, and they've never, as far as I'm aware, they've never stopped mods. Even when they were trying to monetize it, they were just trying to force people down. They were trying to guide people, maybe rather than force them down a road that would benefit them financially. But I think it fell to pieces and never really went anywhere. So that's fair enough. But though Diablo and Daggerfall are both kind of success stories, I thought. So let's bring the mood down, shall we?
Yeah, let's crush it.
A bit of a lesser success, complete disaster story, really. So Bethesda. Do you want to?
We just praised them, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've got any. If you want to take the lead on this one, Maddie, because you're the one that mentioned it before the podcast.
As far as I know, it's supposedly to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Doom. They've released Doom 1, 2, and 3 on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch. I believe all three. They're quite cheap. I think they're about like £5. The 1 and 2 are, and like £8 for for Doom 3.
Seems reasonable.
But yeah, it's a decent price. you know, Doom's obviously been like you talk about Skyrim being ported everywhere. The original Doom has
literally
been
has been
literally
ported
on
everywhere.
everything.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen it on
like
calculators and shit, man. It's incredible.
there must be dozens and dozens of ports by now. But considering that this is the first time it's happened this generation, the ports of Doom 1 and 2 are very disappointing. 2 reasons. First of all, a whole lot of technical reasons. There's a video by Digital Foundry that went up yesterday as we record this that kind of sums it up, but just performance reasons and incorrect aspect ratios and just very sloppy porting of Doom 1 and 2.
Especially when you say it's been done like 1,000 times before.
Yeah, it's been ported 1,000,000 times, and for it to, you know, to be on the latest technology and then do a shit job of it is just kind of inexcusable.
Yeah.
It's like you're either fucking lazy or useless, whatever way you want to call it when you're doing that bad of a job. But Diablo 3 apparently is a brilliant port. It was done by Panic Button.
Doom 3?
I'm going to call it Diablo 3 for the rest of this podcast.
Diablo always gets mentioned. I do love that game, but apparently I love it more than I think I do, because I think it's gotten mentioned in every show we've done so far, in one way or another.
But Doom 3 is a really good port, apparently, yeah. So I intend
Panic Button
to
do
pick
stellar
that one
work,
up.
though.
Yeah, they've got a good track record, and this one's no slouch either. So that's just a quick summation of the technical problems and blah blah blah. The bigger problem is with Doom 1 and 2. If you wish to purchase the games and play them, you are required to create a Bethesda account, which
is a
kind of
rational
bullshit
decision.
DRM thing for it to be like kind of attached to Doom 1 and 2, which are these sort of, you know, ported everywhere early 90s video games, for it to be like, hey, sign up to our shitty fucking email service bullshit.
Well,
like, how about no Bethesda?
It's just another account to get hacked into.
It's another account. It's another way they can leach details. Another way they can try and tell you shit.
And we're not naive. We all know that publishers want that. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? But for it to be forced onto people who have purchased a game that is very old, when somebody could easily just go and fucking, I don't know, download it on their bloody 1994, you know, bloody Mac computer or something, or on the fridge or whatever. Like, yeah, I don't understand why this is the path I've taken.
Like, how else am I supposed to play Doom on my Switch unless I buy it from the eShop? Like, what the fuck's the point of this DRM?
It's bullshit. Yeah. Actually, if you want to play Doom on your Switch, you can probably just hack your Switch. Be easier. And then,
Ben, just hack your Switch.
And then fuck Bethesda. But Doom 3, I got that right, is you don't actually need to sign in for that. Like, I think it prompts you to, but then you can just say fuck off, and it does.
Which, weirdly enough, is something that apparently is also in Wolfenstein New Blood, which came out last week. Also a Bethesda published game. Apparently that is also behind this Bethesda.net account thing, where if you've bought a deluxe edition, you need to have that account to verify that you bought the deluxe edition to get the deluxe goodies.
That's so sleazy. I'll tell you what, another thing, and I don't know the full details of this, but from what I've heard, the backwards compatible versions of of Doom 1 and 2 on XBLA that you could play on your Xbox One device, you can no longer do that now. It's been removed.
Oh no.
Because of course it is, because, you know, fucking Bethesda. But also there's loads of little weird things, like on the Switch. If you go into sleep mode when you're playing Doom 1 and 2, if you go back off sleep mode and try and play the games, the game kind of glitches out, and every 10 seconds tells you you've signed out of Bethesda account, and you can't get rid of it unless you turn it off and properly turn it off and exit.
I mean, this is a shower of shit. It's just like bizarre.
Yeah,
I think, to be fair to Bethesda, this is not good, and Bethesda are more and more, as time goes on, in recent times at least, they are becoming more and more one of the bad guys of the industry, which is unfortunate,
which is a shame because they were in a good place.
Oh, I mean, they, I as much as Skyrim gets a lot of shit these days, I still think it's a fucking masterpiece.
Oh yeah,
Oblivion before it, Fallout 3 was fantastic.
But I think
Fallout 4 was good.
it's
I mean,
more of a case of
they seem to one hand be listing that they did a lot of work with Fallout 76 and rebuilding that, and it seems to be in a good place. So you just think damage control, damage limitation, just try and get fans back on side, and it doesn't seem to be happening.
the problem is it's Bethesda as a developer versus Bethesda as a
Yeah,
publisher.
I'll accept that absolutely.
And so, like, you'll have Bethesda develop games that are exceptional, but then when you think of them as a publisher, they just seem to be doing all the sleazy tactics to I don't know, but it's yeah. Like I was saying before the podcast, they're on the shit list now.
I mean, to be fair, I think to Bethesda's defense, I think what they've come out now and said, look, sorry about this. We didn't really intend it to be so intrusive. We are patching it out basically. So they are looking to update it. It sounds like this is more by accident than necessarily design, or it's bad design.
They couldn't get away with it. You know, they've been caught, and they don't need bad PR at the minute because they've just had the last year they've had Fallout 76. So they're trying to kind of rebuild their image.
Yeah.
And then for such an inexpensive part of old games that have been everywhere, for them to like have all these cock-ups is just it's really
it feels like weirdly rushed despite coming out of nowhere, if that's the case.
Yeah, it just seems poorly done and very unprofessional and blah blah blah. But on the bright side, the version of Doom 3 apparently is brilliant. So and it's only £7.99. So I am thinking of getting it.
There you go. Go and buy it.
Buy it, and then you can talk about it on next week's show.
Oh yeah, surely, because I'll have beasted Assassin's Creed by then. Yeah.
Willpower, mate. Just willpower.
Willpower. But yeah, so that's Bethesda.
Okay, so Bethesda in the shit. There is a company that is not, and that is Sony. It's been announced this week that the PlayStation 4 has now sold 100 million units, which is an impressive number.
Crazy.
It's it's. I think I saw this kind of is reaching that point maybe a couple of months ago, and it's doing exactly kind of what the PlayStation 2 did in terms of every other household seems to have one. Every other person that you speak to seems to say, "Yeah, I've got a PlayStation," or "No, I've got an Xbox," or "Oh, I've got a Nintendo."
They've completely if you look at the sales figures, they've completely picked up from where they left off with the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I think they've learned with PlayStation 4 everything that went wrong with PlayStation 3 and not to do that again. I just hope for the next generation, both Microsoft and Sony do the same thing and learn from their mistakes and not to repeat those mistakes again.
Yeah, not do the generation on, generation off.
This generation was pretty much over before it even started when Xbox One announced their camera. I mean, we did a podcast on the old site that shall not be named about the E3 and when it was announced and the impressions and what we thought of it, and Sony just basically came along and said, in terms of Microsoft, we're not doing anything they're doing, and they won. There wasn't really anything.
Sony didn't even need to do anything, did they?
Their conference was just, we're just not going to do any of that shit that you don't want, and they'd won. It's such a really bizarre. I remember seeing on E3 and the memes coming out of it. It was just absolutely bizarre that somebody could just not have anything.
I was going to say it's one of the biggest cock-ups I've seen in video game business.
Yeah. Something to just not really innovate anything kind of majorly and stick to the status quo and just kind of win so hard.
It was so arrogant, wasn't it? The whole pitch was so arrogant. It was like, fuck the people who play video games. We're going to build this thing.
TV, sports,
living room. It's like, well, hang on. What about video games? They're like,
there was the whole DRM thing where they would check in every 24 hours. That went down like a piece of shit.
It's like someone sabotaged the company. Like Sony sent someone in and said, what we need you to do is go and fuck up Microsoft. Right?
Well, I mean,
the Xbox brand.
Phil Spencer was around during the PS3 and he was down during the Xbox One. I mean, I'm not putting two and two together, but I think he's the common denominator there. But in fairness, though, Microsoft have done fantastic in picking themselves back up with the backward compatibility.
They've rebuilt their image.
Xbox Games Pass. That's exactly what we want. It helps competition. It helps people that have invested in that brand for so long. So
I think we just need all three platforms to be good and competitive and to push each other. That's all.
I think exactly. I think we're in a good place now going to the next generation.
Yeah. Especially because the end of last generation, there was a lot of articles and bullshit online opinions that console gaming is it's going to die off now because people love Flappy Bird or something, whatever it's called.
I think there'll always be a place for it, but it'll branch out more. Like we've got kind of remote play from your PC, and you can cross play with PC. I think we'll see more of that.
Streaming coming in, and
we'll absolutely see more of that. But I don't think just the convenience of having a one system solution, you just put in a disc and you're good to go.
I think the PlayStation 4 kind of got better as it went along. I think, if you look back to the launch of the PlayStation 4, it was kind of a barren wasteland in terms of video games.
I'd say that's just kind of standard console release.
It is, but
I think with most console releases, it was like that. I remember PlayStation 2 had like a tag tournament. That was the only game I played. I remember buying PlayStation 1 games for a good 6-7 months afterwards because there was nothing really on the PS2 I wanted to play.
But the momentum at the start was purely just like the PR disaster from Microsoft, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
But as the generation's gone on, I think PlayStation have just they've kept good with the games. The revisions of the consoles have been smart. The PlayStation 4 Slim was a good revision. Allowed them to price competitively.
Yep, PlayStation Pro, Xbox Pro. Next,
yeah. Like Sony have kind of just went along nicely this generation.
They've had the only thing you could say is they've had a few stumbles in more recent times with things like crossplay and those definitely Sony are definitely the bad guy in that arena.
100%.
Yeah, little cracks that 100%. You think, well, if you kind of try and look back at the history of the last few generations and go, oh well, could this be a sign of maybe the worst things to come? But surely not by now. Surely they must know that, especially in this day and age of social media, that keeping your hardcore gamers and your passionate influencers, keep them on the side.
Yeah, I mean, back to sales numbers. I was reading PlayStation virtually saved Sony, so I can see them investing in this for a long time.
Yeah, everything else was down. Phones were down. The TVs were down. TVs, everything was not doing well. Like Walkmans aren't a thing anymore. They don't have an MP3 player equivalent, and I'd argue MP3 players and iPods aren't a thing much anymore anyway because you've got smartphones.
You've got phones, you've got streaming,
streaming like Spotify, Apple Music, things like that. But yeah, in terms of numbers, so basically it's 100,000 sold.
100,000.
100,000.
Sorry, 100,000. Million. So it took the PS2 5 years and 9 months to reach that number, and the PS4 has done it in 5 years and 7 months. So it's beat it up by 2 months.
It's beat the PS2.
Yeah.
In terms of that sales figure, in terms of that target, I think overall PS2 was it 120, 130? Because they're still making them in like Brazil and things for years.
Yeah, but the thing is, the same thing's going to happen with the PlayStation 4 in a lot of those countries. The PlayStation 4 will continue to sell for, at least 5 years, really.
I think it's weird because it's hard to compare the two in a lot of respects because you guys kind of touched on it before where the PS2 everybody had one, and I would say in the days of the PS2, if you wanted to play games, you had to have a PC or a console, and PS2 was the clear favorite just because of the sheer variety and volume of games. I think today there are far more people playing games than there ever was back in the PS2's day. However, there's far more variety. So you've got more people, but they're spread far thinner. Hence why it balanced out. Because to be honest, it's the type of thing if you would put the PS4 in the same kind of circumstance as the PS2, I would expect it to have sold a lot quicker. If you get what I mean, if there was if
the attach rate was as common as it was back then, I know what you mean.
It's kind of like if the overall pool of people playing games and everything had continued to increase, but the variety and platform availability hadn't. I think PS4 would have been even better off as a result. It's a weird thing, but similarly, if more platforms come out, mobile games account for like half of gaming revenue, so that's a huge chunk that's been bolted on to the end of the console. But I think however you slice it, this PS2 was a fucking anomaly in itself. It was a hugely successful console. It was a very popular DVD player. There was a lot less
And
choice back in those days.
it remains the best video game console of all time. So, as far as I'm concerned,
it was like a runaway hit, and it does feel like the PS4 always intended to try and be that spiritual successor. It had a similar look to the PS4, PS2. I always thought it was all about the games. They really brought the message back to just let our system plays games. And yeah, the Sony are generally doing very well. And PS5 is going to be out. I think if we're sitting here this time next year, we will be saying, we are 4 months away from PS5 launching.
Oh, definitely. I think it is. It is Christmas time.
If Xbox are
next year.
releasing Scarlet Holiday 2020, Sony need to be around that timeline. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think definitely end of next year.
But they've already confirmed that it's going to be backwards compatible with PS4 games and all the rest of it. So it'll be interesting to see how the PS4 continues to be sold.
Fantastic news, because we missed that out the last couple of generations.
Yeah, completely.
I think it makes sense. If you've got like 100 million PlayStation 4s out there, you'd want them to.
Yeah, 100%. And like I was saying, you were saying, when the console comes out initially, there's bare minimum to play. So why not just play your old games and play them at kind of upscale definition or whatever? I imagine it'd be like essentially be a PS4 Pro when it comes out.
Pro Plus.
Yeah,
a Pro, but
propane.
And I think we talked about this on one of the earlier episodes of the podcast as well, where backwards compatibility, it seems to be this thing that people argue for, but I always argue that I don't think the masses really give a shit. I think people play games, put them down, and never pick them back up for the most part.
I think it's a nice incentive. I think it's a little kind of thing where you can put in the box.
It helps move the generation along. It helps keeps it kind of having two consoles. You can absolutely take the old one away, bring the new one in. You can enjoy the best of both worlds while you kind of settle into the next generation.
Well, what I was going to say, I think this backwards compatibility is maybe more important than it ever has been because of the prevalence of games as a service.
Absolutely, yeah.
You move to PS5, you can still play your Destiny, you can still play your Warframe, you can still play Final Fantasy 14 on your new box straight away.
Yeah, and you're not just playing in a pool of players that have a PlayStation 5.
It'll be everyone PS4 and PS5, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's cool. But I thought that was a good news story. Sony have done really well this generation. It's nice to see them doing well after the disaster that was PS3. I feel like Xbox and PlayStation have really switched roles, where it's basically a damage limitation all generation. But we will see. It'd be nice to have a generation where everybody is fighting on the same footing for a change.
I think so. I think that's the ideal level you want it to be at, because it keeps everyone on their toes, But
100%.
At least all three appear to be in healthy places. I think Xbox has got enough funding from Microsoft to continue for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Nintendo have they haven't repeated the Wii U, so they're in a good position right now. And then obviously Sony with PlayStation.
So it's good news.
We need Sega to come back and just fuck it all up.
The Dreamcast 2, come on.
It is.
Let's get some 3D Sonics on the go.
My fucking
in 4K.
Sonic Mania 2, boys. Predicting it now.
Exclusive to Dreamcast 2.
Sonic Adventure 3.
Oh shit!
Oh,
no,
God,
I'm not ready.
no.
I'm not ready, man. I'm not ready.
Sonic Unleashed 2.
Sonic Pinball 2. Oh my god.
Oh god, no, I can't deal with that. That game did my fucking head in.
God, that game is shit.
It's just so hard.
This is where I leave. This is where I fucking leave. Fuck you, Wolf. Masterpiece.
It's too fucking hard, man. It's ridiculous. It's like there's so much luck involved in that game. At least that's how it always felt. It's awful. I remember I was at the first level, we were in the sewers, and you would land on the little platform between the flippers, and the fucking robot dragon would come out and try and eat you.
Come and fucking eat your fucking face, yeah. Yo, get good, man. Get good. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, no, I'm
it's the Dark Souls of pinball games. Yeah, that's what it is.
One success story to something that's a little bit more dubious now is my final news story I've got for us this evening. It's our serious topic for the evening. We like to tackle the hard issues on this show. Rockstar in the news again, and not for good reasons. Of all places, we're getting big boy outlets now. The Guardian have run a story, among other outlets, but I've got the Guardian article in front of me.
Yeah.
Rockstar North, who are the Edinburgh-based studio for Grand Theft Auto, they do the development, the majority of the development for the Grand Theft Auto games. Well, it turns out they've not paid any corporation tax in the last decade.
Oh,
isn't that brilliant?
No.
Yeah.
They not only that, but they have claimed £42 million in tax relief as well.
Wankers.
It's fucking crazy. So basically, this what was it? I had it a second ago. There's the tax. So they've paid no tax corporation. It's there, and there's a watchdog called Tax Watch who have been looking into this, and they published a report that basically says that they estimate Rockstar Games has an operating profit at about $5 billion, which equates to about £4 billion.
Yep.
And that's between 2013 and 2019, which is when Grand Theft Auto 5 came out, and then Red Dead Redemption 2 has also come out in the time since. We know how fucking lucrative Grand Theft Auto 5 was for that company. It sold, what was it, the fastest selling entertainment product ever within like 2 days of it launching. Matty, you went to fucking Blockbusters at midnight to get it.
I tell you what I did. I went to game with my friend, and the line was kind of halfway down the other side of the city. And we were like, forget that. And we managed to pass a Tesco 24 hours that just looked busier than normal. And we went in, and they were selling Grand Theft Auto, and there was no queues. I was like, yeah, I want to buy this.
Straight. It was, I'm pretty sure, I don't know the figures in front of you, but I think it is up there with one of the best-selling video games of all time.
It will be, 100%.
Sold something stupid like 60 million copies or something.
I think Minecraft probably beats it for reasons, but in terms of this generation, just on the console.
In terms of this generation, maybe Minecraft's the only thing that comes near it. But it's still in the UK charts, isn't it? Every week it seems like it's up there. Or
I think it's dropped recently, but yeah, for years and years and years it was on.
I think it's still at the 9th or 10th slot. It's still there. It's not like it's never far below.
It's almost a joke, isn't it? You go and do your weekly shopping and think, oh, I've bought my monthly copy of GTA 5. I'll just add that to the shop.
It's nuts. It is absolutely crazy, and it still holds relative value. It's like maybe about £25 standard now, but for a game that's been out the best part of a decade at this point, and multiple re-releases across multiple platforms. That's not it. So the article here basically says that when GTA 5 released, it made £1 billion in its first 3 days on sale, and it's got on to make more from there. And obviously there's long-term sales beyond that 3 day. There's the re-release on next-gen consoles. There's the re-release on PC, and GTA Online is a money factory for them. They've just released a fucking legitimate online casino over it. Yeah. It's absolutely nuts. So they've basically just been like funneling money away to their American sister companies. They've paid no corporation tax. They've had £42 million in tax relief from the government. And that they've basically applied to the government's video game tax relief scheme. So this was something that the Conservative government of that time introduced as a means of fostering a better development of video games and entertainment products in Britain. And basically, it's a tax relief scheme. You go in, and the game you're making is assessed, and it's done by the British Film Institute, which. Are they really the right people to be doing it? They're probably one of the closest people to be doing it, but
that we have at the moment,
but maybe not the best overall. Maybe something new should have been established. Who knows? But then again, that would have cost taxpayer money again. So it's complicated. But yeah, so basically you go in and you've got a cultural test, which is administered in it. And that basically establishes how significant your contribution to British culture will be. And your game is assessed on 16, it's assessed on 31 points, and you've got to tick 16 of those to qualify. And it looks at things like British setting, characters, development, promoting cultural diversity, just things like that. That typical kind of British government soft stuff. And apparently GTA 5 did that. And I would say, I can completely see it doing that, because it's a game primarily made in Scotland with a very British, very satirical sense of humour.
Yeah.
it's Grand Theft Auto since especially since 3 has been a lampoon of American culture through a very British lens.
Yeah, it has. I think San Andreas probably did it more than with the other games, but 100%. It's just slapstick sometimes, and you see with the brands on the companies like Wanker and things like that. It's just having a dig at kind of the American brands, and even I remember GTA 4 with the TV shows. They were just completely riffing American TV, and it was fantastic. I loved it.
Completely. It's all the majority of the comedians at the comedy club in GTA 4 were English. You had Ricky Gervais and Frankie Boyle, and I think Cat Williams was the American one they had.
Yeah, it was.
Well, GTA 4 had the bloody online internet cafe that was called Twat. Was a very British insult, so
apparently is it Wang Cars?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just really, really puerile, very British kind of slang phrases. I don't think Americans really use the phrase wanker very much. It's definitely a British thing.
No, it's just Aussies and us, really.
So it's bizarre, but it just seemed. Does it not strike you as odd that Rockstar and Take-Two have become the very companies that they
were riffing on? Yeah, I think there's a interesting kind of conclusions you can draw from that. It's pretty.
You die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself.
The villain, yeah. It is shitty. And as much as I love their games, I really hate kind of when corporations don't pay their ways and pay their dues, because it's people like you, me, and probably everyone listening who suffers.
Completely. I mean, I've got to pay a fucking tax.
I can't funnel to my cousin in I don't know, the Panamanian Islands or something like that to kind of say, oh, give me tax relief. I'm not paying tax on anything. It's just not fair. They're not paying on a level playing field, and they always say it's legal, but it's hardly ever moral. Yeah.
I mean, you touch on a good point there, to be honest, Gosh, because this isn't morally right, but corporations are not moral organizations. And to play devil's advocate for the whole thing, so my personal view on this is, I think it's fucking disgusting. I think Rockstar are a company who are always in the news for bad reasons when they're not releasing games. Yeah. Obviously, when Red Dead Redemption was launched, there was all the thing about crunch and bad culture, and all the shit around all of that stuff. And it wasn't a good look for them. It really wasn't. And I think the worst part is a lot of that seemed to be that, well, we don't enforce it by policy, or it's against the law. We don't enforce that, but it's all implied and enforced through culture rather than law and rules, which is worse because it's like you're following the letter of the law but not the spirit. And I hate shit like that. It's just like it's like being technically right about something. It's not good. But on the tax front, it's annoying because they make more money than God. They just have so much money, it's unreal. They do so without having to release stuff all the time. They just take the time, and they're in a very luxurious position. You can't tell me that they don't have enough money to develop another Grand Theft Auto. You couldn't tell me they don't have enough money to make Grand Theft Auto 6 a day or 3 days after GTA 5 launched. It's absolutely nuts. And yet they have then milked that game for, I guess, again, the best part of a decade. We're year 7 into GTA 5's lifespan, and it's still making millions.
Yeah, they've made some fat stacks off that game. I'm sure they'll do the same with Red Dead as well. But not as much, maybe, but
no, I think that. I mean, it's obviously not all about the money to them, because Red Dead to me was a very expensive indie game, because it's very like. It's very much I am what I am, and if you don't like it, I don't give a shit. This is what I am. But
I don't think it has the appeal of GTA in terms of like being like cool and hip and stuff. But
I mean, GTA has got a far more mainstream appeal, and then I think Red Dead alienated people who wanted to like it anyway, because it was a cowboy simulator, not an action game. But that aside, so I think my personal stance, I think this is a shitty thing. I think Rockstar can afford to pay tax. I think they can afford to fucking pay their staff better, because while they're siphoning off all this money and taking tax breaks, they have staff working for them who are having to apply for tax credits, which is fucked. Pay your staff a living wage, for fuck's sake. Pay them something decent. There's talented developers who could go and work for a bank and make twice as much, but they're there working on something because they're passionate about it. And it just feels like Rockstar taking the piss at every level. However, that's my personal view on it. The kind of cold, calculated view of it is Rockstar is a commercial organization whose sole mission is to make money. And if our government allows rules that will let corporations like this take advantage, they will. They are not a person. They don't have a moral obligation. They are a collective which is there to create value.
It goes back to what we were saying last week about loot boxes and whatnot. It's whatever makes the money as well will go. I don't think their interest is in being moral, unless it affects money.
You can't trust people to make the right decision, and I don't even trust people to make the right decision, let alone corporations made up of hundreds of people with opposing views, with a mandate to make money, as much money as possible. That mandate is always going to skew even the most morally guided, like the person with the strongest moral compass. That's always going to have an effect on them. I really think it's up to us, up to the government, and up to us as a society and all the rest of it to put in place rules that cannot be abused. And if that means Rockstar close down Rockstar North or move it away, then that's shitty as well. But like,
it's a conundrum, and I mean Brexit is. I know we hear so much about it, but it absolutely plays into kind of EU rules on tax avoidance and stuff like that.
Well, this shit's going to get. We're going to be hearing a lot more about this type of stuff in the next couple of years, next decade. Well, the likes of me and you guys will probably be paying more tax, and the likes of these guys will probably be paying even less.
And it's infuriating, absolutely infuriating.
But it's a shame because me and you, Cash, talked about Red Dead at length, and I fucking love that game. Like, legitimately think it's amazing. I think Arthur Morgan is probably the best protagonist in a game that I've seen
ever.
Probably ever.
The voice acting was so good for him.
Yeah.
He's the guy who did his voice. I can't remember his name, but he's like is it Craig Clark? He's like an established theatre actor.
Yeah.
And he's just a professional actor, and he really knew what he was doing. And the
story was so well done. The writing was so well done in that game. The world was incredible.
This is why games are bigger than kind of TVs and movies. Is that caliber of people writing, acting, directing, producing, developing.
It's so it's shitty because I've bought into all this shit. I bought Grand Theft Auto at launch. I bought it again on next gen consoles. I bought Red Dead. I've praised them all. I sing the praises still, and yet nobody is doing what Rockstar does. At least not to the caliber they do it. And yet they're a heap of shit.
We can absolutely praise the games and just criticize the company for doing what they're doing. There's no hypocrisy in that.
Yeah, I mean, the people who make the games, they are doing something they love. They're very passionate. They're working on something. It's the high ups and the management and the company as a unit, as a legal entity. That's what's shit, and it's just disappointing. And I mean, the guy, George Turner, who's the director of Tax Watch, he's got a quote here saying, "It is outrageous that the UK taxpayer is being asked to shell out tens of millions of pounds in subsidies to the developers of Grand Theft Auto, when at the time that the game's developer put in their tax..." Sorry, I'm all over the place. When at the time that the game's developers put in their tax credit application, Grand Theft Auto 5 had already generated several $billion in sales and profits.
It's when you put it that way as well. It
is disgusting.
This is a nice little reference to Grand Theft Auto. This is a drive-by assault on the British taxpayer. Yeah, this George, he knows what he's about, doesn't he? He's up on it. He's definitely had a few copies of GTA 5.
Let's go.
And it's a drive-by assault on the British taxpayer and corporate welfare scrounging at its very worst. And it goes on to say there is no evidence that HMRC has challenged the setup or that Take-Two or any of the individuals named in this report has acted illegally. So that's the worst part. No one's broken the law. HMRC's not challenged it because there's no grounds to challenge it. And yet...
No, they're powerless, yeah.
I mean...
Everybody knows it's shitty, but nobody can do anything about it.
Exactly. It's like the loot boxes like we talked about last night. They're not gambling by the word of the law. It's shitty. God, we're bad news. We're a bad news podcast. That's all there is to
it. And also, fuck Bethesda. Don't forget that.
I'm you know what? I've got a few other little bits and pieces, but I'm gonna end it there. We've been going a long time. Been a long show. I was worried we weren't gonna have much material tonight, if I'm honest. But we like to spin things out.
We know how to stretch things. We know how to spread things thin.
Yeah, so I'm out of news. You guys got anything you want to raise before? Anything you wanted to mention?
No, I think it's just the PS4 sales I was going to bring, and that's it, really.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be worth getting Doom 3. Apart from that, there's nothing else.
And you got the name right.
Hey.
I did. It also might be worth getting Diablo 3 because I can.
Oh, it's always worth getting Diablo 3. I'll always stand by that. Okay then, so that'll bring us to the end of the show. Thanks for listening, and as usual you can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. Remember to like, subscribe, follow, hit that bell and all the rest of that bullshit. We're on iTunes for this podcast, so you can also subscribe to that and get these episodes delivered to you directly to your device. We will be back at the same time next week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.